family. We leave first thing in the morning, pausing only for Dirce to set Orna's remains aflame so she can't return to life as one of the undead. Often demons take the bodies of their victim with them. I think Lord Loss made the children leave Orna so her bones and the last few scraps of flesh could further unnerve us. We march in silence, all thoughts on Orna, and how she went willingly to her monstrous death. Is her spirit with her children now in the underworld? Or is it doomed to wander the land for all time, lost and damned? Even Durst is sombre, leaving the lessons for later, proof that, in spite of his stern appearance, he too is human, with the same emotions as the rest of us. The ground has been getting rockier the further west we proceed. Fewer trees, no fields or crops, not many animals, no wraths or crannogs. But people live here, or did at one time, since there were remains of many dolmens and wedge tombs. Most of the dolmens have been knocked over, the stones scattered, the bones they housed burnt to ash, and the seals of the wedge tombs have been broken. We'd find charred ash or the sleeping undead. I don't think any of the dead in this land lie whole in peace anymore. In the afternoon, we come to a small village of beehive-shaped stone huts. It's an odd settlement, with only a crumbling short wall around the perimeter. The huts are in poor condition, some fallen in on themselves. At first, I think it's a ghost village, that all the people are dead or fled. But then I spot smoke coming from a few huts. I hear a woman shouting at a child. We look around at each other, surprised to find life in such a hostile, vulnerable environment. Humans or demons? Vikna asks. I'm not sure. Just sniffs the air. There's a scent of something inhuman, but he smells the air again, eyes narrow slits. There are humans too. Peculiar. Should we avoid it? Gaul asks. Dirsch thinks a while, then shakes his head. We need to rest. We've had little sleep recently. We must seek shelter. But if there are demons, Gaul mutters. Dirsch glances up at the sky. It's a long time till sunset. We should be safe. And I'm curious. I want to know what these people are doing here and how they've avoided being butchered by demons. There's a narrow gateway into the village, but we climb over the wall uh, in case the entrance has traps. There are animals within, scraggly sheep and goats. They scatter when they see us, bleating loudly. A boy sticks his head out of the hut, a sling in one hand. He starts to shout. He thinks some animal has entered the village and scared the sheep or goats, and then he sees us, and his shout changes from one of anger to one of alarm. Strangers! Within seconds, two men, three women, three children, two girls and a boy, are in front of the huts, spears and crude swords to hand, facing us. We hold our ground, weapons raised defensively. Then Gol gives us the order to lower our arms. He steps forward, right hand held palm up, and shouts a greeting. One of the men meets Gol halfway, face creased with suspicion, eyeing us speedily. The pair have a quick, hushed conversation. At the end, Gol turns and nods us forward, while the man returns to his place among the others. When we're all together, Gol makes her introductions. The man who met them tells us that they're the MacGregor. His name is Torin, the other man Ert. The women are Edine, Dara, and Fand. We aren't told the names of the children. They're on a quest, Torin says. He's a short, muscular man, dark-skinned. They want to stop the demons. One of the women, Fand, laughs. Just the 8 of them? One is all it takes, Durst responds. We don't have that much respect for druids here, Ert says, spitting into the dirt at Durst's feet. Your kind aren't as powerful as you pretend to be. We've had dealings with your lot before, and they failed us. Failed you in what way? Durst asks, with cold politeness. We'll talk about that later, Torin says, frowning at Ert. For now, you're welcome. We won't turn you away. However, we can't feed you, so if you want to eat, you'll have to hunt. He squints at the sun. I wouldn't wait too long. The woman called Edine points to a pair of huts near the wall, both in poor condition. You can stay there, she says. You'll be safe if you don't wander. We'll call for you later, the third woman, Dara, adds. Thank you, I mutter when the men don't respond. Our pleasure, Edine replies. She starts to turn away and then stops and stares at me. Girl, she commands, come here. I step forward cautiously. Edine reaches for me sharply, and I draw back from her cracked nails, readying myself to bark a spell. She spreads her fingers to show she means no harm, then smiles crookedly. I stand still while she cups my chin, tilts my head back. What is it? Torrin asks. Her face, Edine mutters, turning my chin towards Torrin. The man frowns. She looks like, but she can't. Girl, what's your name? Where are you from? Bec, I tell him. I'm from the Wrath of the Macon. Are you with them? Torrin asks. Is your mother of the clan? My mother's dead, I answer softly. No one knows who she was or where she came from. She died not long after I was born. Uh, Aidnat's child, Aiding gasped, her fingers tightening on my chin. You must be. I tingle with shock as she says that. The face of my mother quickly forms in my mind, and for the first time ever, I have a name to go with it. You knew my mother, I cry. She was my sister, Aiding crooks. Is this where I'm from? Is this where my mother lived? When Aiding nods, wonderingly, my head spins and my heart leaps. Why did she leave? I yell. What happened? Who was my father? Is he still alive? Do you... Enough, Torn interrupts. He's glaring at me. The news that I'm of his people hasn't pleased him. We must think on this. We'll talk about it tonight. He heads back inside the large stone hut, waving at the others to follow, leaving us to stare at one another uncertainly and make our way to the smaller huts, set up camp for the night. My head still spinning. I'd almost forgotten about the spirit of my mother beckoning me west, and the notion that maybe she wanted to keep me, or to help me unlock the secrets of my past. Inside, I never really believed I'd discovered the truth about my family. It was a childish dream. Yet here I am, in the most unlikely of places, suddenly confronted with her name and the promise of my history. Eidnat. Eidnat. As soon as Aiden said that, I knew that was my mother. Maybe it's the magic that makes me sure, but I think I would have known, even if it had happened before my new power had blossomed. But her name's all I know. Who was she? Why'd she live in this wilderness with the others? And why leave her family home to bear me in loneliness and die so far from home? I want to ask questions now, to find out answers immediately. I want to rush to the large hut and demand the truth from Aideen and Torin. But this is their home, meagre as it is, and it would be disrespectful to speak out of turn. If it's their wish for me to wait, then wait I must, no matter how frustrating it is. Ronan and Lorcan hunt for food in the hours before sunset. Game is scarce in the rocky wilderness, but the twins return with two hares, a crow and a fox cub. Fiachna, Bran, and I pick berries and wild roots while they're gone. It makes for a fine meal. There's even some left over, which we offer to Fan when she comes to fetch us shortly after sunset. We have our own food, she says curtly. As we're walking to the largest building, there's a ferocious howl from one of the huts in poor repair. The warriors in our group draw weapons immediately, but Fan waves away their concerns. It's nothing, she says. That was a demon, Gaul growls, not lowering his sword. No, Fan says. That was my brother. We stare at her with disbelief. She sighs, then strides towards the hut where the howl came from. We follow cautiously. At the entrance, Fan crouches and points within. We bend down with her. Dim evening light shines through the holes in the roof. In the weak glow, we see an animal tied by a short length of rope to a rock in the middle of the hut. It's human shaped, but covered in long, thick hair, with claws and dark yellow eyes. It snarls when it sees us and tries to attack, but it's held back by the rope. That's your brother? Gaul asks suspiciously. His name was Finton, Fan says. What happened to him? I asked, staring uncomfortably at the yellow eyes. Disfigured as they are, they look disturbingly similar to mine. Is he undead? No, Fan says. We'll tell you in the main hut. Come. When we hesitate, she manages a thin smile. Don't worry, you're safe here. Fitton and the others are tied up tight. There are more like this, Ronan says. 4. Fan pauses. Her expression darkens. For now. She goes to the largest hut and ducks inside. One last glance at the creature chained to the rock. It looks like a cross between a wolf and a man. When we follow, gripping our weapons tight, watching for shadows, for any sign of the other unchained beasts. It's crowded inside the hut, with all 5 adults and 3 children we saw earlier. 2 younger kids, just one a babe, and us. The McGregor are poorly dressed. Some of the children are naked and scrawny, dirty hair, rough tattoos, cracked nails, bloodshot eyes. They've seen Finton, Fan says when they're seated, after a few seconds of uneasy silence. Good, Torn grunts. That saves us some time. He collects his thoughts, glances at me, then tells their tale. My tale. Several generations ago, their ancestors bred with the Fomori. They thought the semi-demons were going to conquer this land and threw in their lot with them. When the Fomori were defeated, the McGregor were hunted down and executed as traitors. But some survived and went into hiding. Although if they'd known what was going to come next, I think they would have accepted their death, Torrin says bitterly. Some of the children of the human Fomori couplings were born deformed and demonic, and were immediately put to death. But most were human in appearance. These grew and lived, and for many years all was well. And then the changes began. Torrin sighs. When children came of a certain age, usually on the cusp of adulthood, some transformed. It always happened around the time of the full moon. Their bodies twisted, hair sprouted, their teeth lengthened into fangs, their nails into claws. The changes developed and worsened over 3 or 4 moons, and in the end they were wild, inhuman beasts, incapable of speech or recognition, killers if left to wander free. The affected children were slain, while some others grew up and had children of their own. They thought they were safe, that they'd survived the curse, but they were wrong. Some of the children of the survivors changed too, and their grandchildren, and those who came after. It strikes at random, Torrin says. Sometimes 4 or 5 children of any generation will change. Sometimes it's only 2, but always a few. There's never been a generation where none of the children have turned. The family sought help of a priestess and druids in the years later, when their treachery had been forgotten and they were free to live among normal folk again. But no magician could lift the curse, so they struggled on, moving from one place to another wherever their dark secret was discovered, living as far away from other clans as possible, sometimes killing their beastly young, other times, as here, allowing them to live in hope that one day a change might bring them back and be cured by a powerful druid. It's no sort of life, Torrin mutters, eyes distant, waiting for her children to turn, having to feed those who've fallen foul of the curse, and look upon them as they are, remembering them as they were. I'd rather kill the poor beasts, but she glances at Fand, or he glances at Fand, who glores at him. And Bec? Fiachna asks, sensing my impatience, speaking on my behalf. Her mother was of your clan. If her mother was Idnat, yeah, aye, Torrin says. He looks at me again, his face dark. Idnat had 6 children, all turned. When she fell pregnant for the seventh time, years after, and her husband, uh, Stern, had agreed not to try again, Stern was furious. He couldn't bear the thought of bringing another child into the world and rearing it, only to have to kill it when it fell prey to the ravages of the moon. Edna had argued to keep the child. She thought she might be lucky this time, how the gods would never curse her 7 times in a row. She was old, at an age when most women can no longer conceive. She thought it was a sign that this child was blessed, and it would be safe. Stern didn't agree, neither did the rest of us. Some did, Irene interrupts bitterly, but says no more when Torrin glares at her warningly. We decided to kill the child in the womb, Torrin continues gruffly. That was Stern's wish, and he believed it was the right thing to do. Stern took Aidnat off into the wilds to do the deed in private, but none of us knew how much Aidnat wanted the baby. She fought with him, and when they were alone, she stabbed him. I don't think she meant to kill him, but my mother killed my father, I almost scream. Aye, Torrin says, burning me with a stare. She probably only intended to wound him, but she cut too deeply. He died, she fled. By the time we discovered his body, she was far away. We followed for a time to avenge Stern's murder, but we lost her trail after a couple of days. We prayed for her death when we returned. I'm pleased to hear our prayers were answered. I rear myself back to curse him for saying such a mean thing, but Fikna grabs my arm, squeezes hard, warning me to be silent. Of course, the girl's not our business now, Torrin says heavily. She's of your clan, not ours, so we can't tell you what to do with her. But she's a cursed child, from the line of cursed children and the spawn of a killer. She's at the age when the moon usually works its wicked charms. If you let her live, chances are strong that she'll change into a beast like Finton. If you want my advice, we don't. Gaul snaps. As you wish, Torn concedes. But when the moon is full, be wary of her. He falls silent. I'm panting hard, as if I'd been running, thinking of the kind, weary face of my mother, trying not to picture killing my father. Then I recall the boy beast in the hut and imagine myself in his position. I wish that my past had remained a secret. What about the demons? Durst asks, maybe to change the subject to stop me brooding, or maybe because he's no interest in my history or Torrin's grim prediction. Don't they ever attack? No, Torrin says, even though you're poorly defended, and they could butcher you any time they pleased. Torrin shrugs. There were other families living near here. They've been forced out of their Tuthta for various reasons and settled in this wasteland. The demons killed them last year. We've seen monsters pass from time to time, and they've seen us, but they leave us alone. Joyce nods. Then it wasn't a Fomori your ancestors bred with. It was a true demon. Some of the Demonata fought alongside the Fomori. Many demons don't attack their own, especially if there are pure humans to kill. You're kin to them, so they spare you, for now at least. We've heard talk of the Demonata before, Thorin says. Other druids, those we went to for help, spoke of them. They told us that the curse was demonic, and that was why they couldn't help. He leans forward. I don't suppose you know any way to... He leaves the question hanging. Dirce thinks about it for a while, and then says, a demon master might be able to lift the curse, but I know of no human, druid, priestess, or any other who has the power to remove such a bloodstain. You mean the demons could cure us? Fan said sharply. One of the powerful masters, perhaps, Durst says. Do you know where we can find one? Durst starts to respond, or to tell them about Lord Loss, and then he stops and shakes his head. The demon masters have not broken through to this world yet, and when they do, they won't be easy to locate, and I doubt you'll be able to convince them to help. By nature, they're not inclined to be merciful. We stay talking a while longer. I ask questions about my mother and father, what they were like, how they spoke and lived, But Torn ignores my queries and speaks sharply whenever Aideen or Fand tries to answer, changing the subject. I consider using magic on him to make him tell me what I want to know, but just reading my thoughts and growls in my ear is neither the time nor the place for magic. Control yourself. When the McGregor have told us some more of their sad history and how they eke out a living here, just speaks of our quest, of the tunnel which is opened between the demon's world and this, and his plan to close it. But he says nothing of how he hopes to pinpoint its location, or why he's leading us up the western coast. The end of the world. When it's time to sleep, we return to our 2 stone huts and that are set aside for us and make ourselves comfortable. Uh, it's been a revealing and frustrating night for me. I've learnt some of the history, but not all. There's so much more Torn and the others could have told me, but Torn hates my mother for betraying the clan, for killing her husband and deserting them. And since she's no longer here for him to hate, he hates me in her place. He'll never tell me about her or allow the others to. Before I lie down, I remember the conversation after the revelations about my past, and asked Durst why he didn't tell Torn about Lord Loss. If they find him, they might be able to persuade him to help, I note, figuring if I could play a part in curing their curse, surely they'd tell me about my parents. Aye, Durst says archly, but all we know about Lord Loss is that he likes to follow us around. If we told them that, they might try to hold us here, to use as bait. But there are more of us than them, I point out. We're stronger and better armed. You and I have magical powers. They couldn't force us to stay. Probably not, Jerse says, but it's safer not to take the risk. This way, they have no need to delay us, and no conflict can come of it. The MacGregor, or their descendants, will have to track down and partition a demon master another time. So saying, he rolls over and falls asleep, not even bothering to cast any masking spells, certain of our safety here in this bitterly charmed village of the damned. And that's the end of that chapter. Thank you for listening. Sorry about the picture. It's not good today, is it? And I'll see you soon.